20th century, some claimed that municipal ownership of public utilities would start the slide down the slippery slope to socialism. But by the 19-teens, even the Seattle Times would endorse government control of electricity, light, and water. A key factor in the turn of public opinion was the series of regrade projects headed by civic engineer R.H. Thompson. A sort of sister city to San Francisco, Seattle used to be known as the City of the Seven Hills. Starting in 1897, hydraulic cannons and sluicing techniques were used to raise the hills that hemmed Seattle's downtown population in. By the last of the regrade projects in 1931, the city's natural landscape had been completely transformed. Hills that were part of the area's natural landscape since the Ice Age were altered in a generation. The amount of earth moved in Seattle's 60 regrade projects was comparable to the amount moved in the creation of the Panama Canal, some 50 million cubic yards of soil. The regrades were an even more impressive reflection of the city's leadership when you consider that they took place at the same time as other, slightly less dramatic public projects, like the creation of the Ship Canal and the artificial cut that separates the University District from Montlake. Like those other transformations of the city's environs, the regrade projects created construction jobs, encouraged real estate, and spawned countless spin-off industries. They couldn't have been done without effective municipal control of public utilities. As water cannons spewed 1/3 of the city's daily water capacity, 10 million gallons a day during the regrade projects, the city ensured that its residents, laborers, and industries were never without the water they needed to put out fires, scrub decks, and bathe children. But the regrade projects also embodied some of the very social ills that made thinkers in the 10s, 20s, and 30s question whether capitalism should or even could survive. Though the regrade projects lowered the profile of the city's hills, they also created unsung underwater mountain ranges of dirt and debris when the runoff was dumped willy-nilly into the city's waterways. Seismologists have since come to the conclusion that the raised seafloor of Elliott Bay, which resulted from the Denny Hill regrades, could shift during an earthquake and cause tsunamis that would devastate the very neighborhoods the regrades paved space for. Normally when we speak of wealth stratification, hierarchy, the upper classes, or of those on top, we're using spatial metaphors to describe socioeconomic realities. But after the city's regrade projects, the lower classes really could be found mostly in areas of lower elevation, as the aristocrats literally fled to the hills. Along with the recently invented automobile, Seattle's new streetcar system made desires for greater social and physical mobility a possibility, and discriminatory real estate practices made it so that only the white and wealthy could live in the city's hilltop districts. As far as spin-off industries go, the regrades were as good to property lawyers as they were to construction workers. Shortages of water were never reported during the regrades, but thousands of injunctions were filed by citizens whose houses were degraded by the regrades. Some homes landslided or were wantonly demolished. Others were treated to raw sewage paint jobs when workers accidentally punctured recently constructed sewer lines. Loggers, miners, and people in Seattle's service industry, who once lived comfortably on Beacon Hill, were forced back to Pioneer Square or to Tideland waterfront shacks, where they shared space with Indians who were segregated from white neighborhoods. One displaced resident put it succinctly when interviewed by the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. "We people who live in your regrade districts," he said, "are martyrs. Sure, it's a good cause and all that, but we're martyrs anyway." The Denny Hill regrade destroyed Denny School, one of the oldest and most beloved schoolhouses in the city and on the West Coast.